Hello, 7th graders, and welcome to your first asynchronous lesson on Nearpod. When we do an asynchronous lesson on Nearpod, we'll always start with a video like this. During the video, questions will pop up for you to answer. Make sure you show all of your work on paper before answering the questions. Once you've entered your answer and submitted it, the video will move on and explain some of the work that you should have done to find your answer. After the video, you'll have a chance to do some practice problems, and then we'll end the video with our first anchor problem for next week's lesson. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Let's dive right into today's problem. If you would like to work along with this problem in your packet, pause the video now. We're going to do the warm-up on page 25 together. Let's read this problem. Elijah drove at a constant rate. Information about his drive is shown in the table. The first question asks, is this relationship proportional? If we want to answer that question, what do we need to find out? What does it mean for this relationship to be proportional? For this relationship to be proportional, it has to contain all equivalent ratios, or there has to be a constant relationship between the number of hours and the number of miles. What can I do to find out if there is a constant relationship between the number of hours and the number of miles? I can find the unit rate, or the constant of proportionality for each row, and see if it's the same to see if the ratios are equivalent. Let's do that now. If Elijah drives 60 miles in 2 hours, what is the rate? If Elijah drives 60 miles in 2 hours, he's driving at 30 miles per hour, because 2 times 30 is 60. Let's find the rate for 3 hours and 90 miles. If Elijah drives 90 miles in 3 hours, what's his rate? Well, 3 times 30 is 90, so the rate is still 30. Let's try 5 hours and 150 miles. If Elijah drives 150 miles in 5 hours, what's the rate? It's still 30, because 5 times 30 is 150. What about 8 hours and 240 miles? If Elijah drives 240 miles in 8 hours, what's the rate? It's still 30 miles per hour. Now let's try 9 hours and 270 miles. If Elijah drives 270 miles in 9 hours, what's the rate? The rate is still 30, because 9 times 30 is 270. Remember, to find unit rate, I can always divide one quantity by the other. So I could have done 60 divided by 2, 90 divided by 3, and so on. Now I know all of my unit rates. Is this relationship proportional? Are all of these ratios equivalent? Yes, this ratio, or this table, does show a proportional relationship, because each ratio of hours to miles is equivalent. What's the constant of proportionality? The constant of proportionality is 30 miles per hour, because I can multiply the number of hours by 30 to find the number of miles traveled. Now, how would you describe the relationship between miles and hours in this table? You should have written something like this. The number of miles is 30 times the number of hours, or Elijah is driving 30 miles per hour. No matter how many hours, the number of miles will always be 30 times as much. Now I have an extension question for you. If Elijah drove for 11 hours, how many miles would he have driven? Explain how you found your answer. Go ahead and solve that problem now. Well, the number of miles is always 30 times the number of hours, so I could have multiplied 11 times 30. The correct answer would have been 330 miles. As you go through your lesson today, make sure to check if the relationship is proportional by seeing if every row has the same unit rate. The constant of proportionality can be found through division. It's the unit rate. And make sure that you are ready to use that unit rate to find missing quantities in the table. You are about to move on and complete practice. Make sure you show all of your work on paper before entering your answers on the screen. You're going to do a great job with this video. I know it, and so does Mr. Smiles. Have a great time with this lesson.